Welcome to another edition of Global Conversations with Regis Tremblay, coming to you from beautiful and historic Yalta in the Crimea of the Russian Federation. Yalta is a vibrant city that energizes and inspires all who live and come here. Young and old relish this historic and beautiful place located between majestic mountains and the Black Sea. Welcome to another edition of Global Conversations. My guest tonight is my friend and a regular on the show, Vladimir Kozin. Tonight, we're going to focus on several issues, but the first issue will be Russia pulling out of the Open Skies Treaty. Vladimir, tell me what this means. What are the implications of Russia now pulling out of the Open Skies Treaty?
Well, Regis, thank you for your question. Look, this treaty, the Open Skies Treaty, or to short OST, is a confidence-building measure. It's a measure enhancing transparency between states, parties to this arrangement. And the United States of America and Russia, some time ago, have been full-fledged members of the OST. But unfortunately, in November last year, President Donald Trump decided to unilaterally denounce this treaty and withdraw from it. This treaty was a very nice arrangement because it permitted to conduct unarmed aerial observation flights over the entire territory of its participants. Before the United States of America was in that treaty, there have been 34 nations, now 33. And though there were some exceptions of overflying of the territory of each member states of this treaty, for example, it is not permitted to send observation aircraft in the vicinity of the intense civilian air traffic route, or to send the same aircraft, observation aircraft of each other side to the area where large-scale military maneuvers or drills are taking place, especially those military maneuvers where aircraft are being engaged, and there is a huge air traffic movement of involving military aircraft of various types. So some exceptions. Mr. President Joseph Biden decided not to rejoin the treaty. There have been 5 main tasks of the OST: to develop military transparency, to enhance confidence-building measures, as I said, to avoid abrupt military confrontation, to facilitate crisis management, and finally to monitor compliance with the arms control treaties. Why Moscow decided to quit from the Open Skies Treaty? There have been 2 major explanations. First of all, the United States unfortunately violated this treaty or tabled to us unjustifiable demands. As to violations, for example, the US government closed down airspace over Alaska and Hawaii for Russia for observation aircraft. Well, the reason, because there are missile defense operational bases in Alaska and Hawaii, raiders. The US side did not permit Russia's OST crews to have a short rest between the airfields in the USA. And third, blocked to install digital cameras aboard Russian observation open skies treaty aircraft. But this was permitted, and all cameras, digital or analogy are certified by each other side, so they can verify it. And amongst the demand, Washington demanded that NATO OST member states should have exclusive rights to fly over the Kaliningrad exclave in the vicinity of the commercial air traffic route. So near single available civilian airport named Khrabrovo. Look, I frequently visit Kaliningrad. I know this airfield and civilian airport. It stretches from east to west, and it is very difficult to close it down because any aircraft, any civilian aircraft, it doesn't matter whether such aircraft flies from the continental Russian territory or from abroad, for example, from Warsaw, Poland, they have to move in east or west direction only, not vertically from north to south, because the landing strip has a specific location fixed. So it is impossible to interfere in this particular case with a regular civilian traffic. So, and the Kaliningrad exclave or Kaliningradskaya Oblast, or the Kaliningrad region in English, is very small territory in terms of aircraft movement. That's why we did not permit the USA and NATO aircraft to fly over this area. But when the US government decided to quit from the Open Skies Treaty, so we understood that without the US participation in this treaty, the treaty is meaningless, is not workable. It cannot exist, simply because the USA and the Russian Federation are key players in this particular arrangement. So the second big reason for this, for Russia's desire to withdraw from the OST, is that there is inspections or surveillance disparity between Eastern and Western participants. Western participants, it's a huge amount of states, nearly all NATO member countries. As to Eastern Bloc or Eastern Group, only Russia and Belarus or Belarusia are members. So look, 31 OST member states monitored Russia and Belarus, and these 31 OST member states have conducted 629 overflights over them, mainly over the Russian territory. But if you compare from our side, so two members, as I said, Russia and Belarus or Belarusia, monitor the United States of America. And we, both two nations, have conducted so far 201 overflights, or 3 times as less as the combined NATO parties to this treaty. We have been waiting quite a long time because de facto, the United States decided to denounce this treaty in November 20. And we recently just launched a national procedure to withdraw from the treaty because we put some questions to NATO participants. Are you going to pass observation information collected over Russia to the United States of America after the United States of America decided to denounce this treaty? No answer was given. Definitely, if there is no answer, the answer is no. We also put second question. Okay, if Russia stays in the framework of this Open Skies Treaty and the United States not, will existing NATO member states, participants in the treaty, give us a permission to fly over American installations, American military installations, American military bases in Europe, if we stay in the framework of the treaty? The answer was definitely no. No, because the United States of America is no longer member or part of this arrangement. So we decided to quit as well. The procedure has been launched. The government suggested that Russia should withdraw from the treaty as soon as possible. It will happen either in May or next month in June. And we have to notify two depository states, Hungary and Canada, of our intention to go back from the treaty. Unfortunately, we have done whatever we could, but unfortunately in vain. We have not been supported by the United States government and NATO allies of the United States. So the treaty will be dead, because without two key players in this treaty, the United States and the Russian Federation, it is useless treaty. It is useless because nobody will have the right to fly over Russian territory, and Russia will have no overflight rights to fly over the continental USA. Regis?
Well, I have a couple of questions for you, Vladimir.
Yeah, please.
What does these overflight missions really mean? Does it mean ordinary aircraft that fly at
yes.
30,000, 40,000 feet, whatever, and they listen and they take pictures? Is that what it is?
Yes, it's unarmed aircraft. For example, in the United States, it's Boeing OC-135B, specially refurbished, specially re-engineered to exercise this kind of observation missions, observation flights. The United States had two, and suspiciously they have decided to dismantle this kind of two observation aircraft to do this mission. As to the Russian side, we have TU Tupolev 214 OH. OH in Russian, which means открытое небо, or open skies, a kind of designation. So it's a huge aircraft, and American has 4 turbo engines, while ours has 2 only, a pair of them. But they are capable to fly over huge territories, specially permitted entry and exit. Special airfield are being allocated for them to land and to fly in specific portions of the territory with a certain exclusions. Regis?
Well, I'm still not clear. For example, does that mean that American spy planes, which is what they are, can fly over Russia and can even land there to refuel or rest? And does that mean?
Oh yes, yes. It's not a spy plane. You cannot call, for example, U-2. U-2. It's a really high altitude American spy airplane, or AWACS, for example, early warning and control aircraft with a huge radar at the top of the fuselage. No, these are specific aircraft. They do not have huge radars or just eavesdropping facilities, but they have digital camera monitoring the surface of Earth and the world oceans, and detect military movements, and notify the respective governments what kind of military troops and contingents or naval vessels are being amassed somewhere, especially exercises or just etc. They can. It's open secret because any information collected or gathered by this observation aircraft of each participant is being shared between other member states of the Open Skies Treaty. It's a kind of a fixed provision. They have to do this, and naturally, they have an overall picture of what is going on the ground or in the air. Because look, national technical means of verification working in outer space can also detect some military movements, watch military bases, naval vessels in the world oceans, etc. But this kind of devices in above the sky in outer space, they cannot watch or see properly through densely clouds. But observation aircraft can go below the clouds and see a clear-cut picture what is going on the Earth. But sometimes from outer space it is impossible to monitor the situation on the ground.
Okay, I was going to ask about outer space and satellites because everybody knows that America has them, Russia has them, China has them, a lot of countries have them that monitor other countries. So let me ask you this. Does this mean now that Russian Open Skies Treaty aircraft can no longer fly over America, the United States of America?
We will have no rights because, first, initially, because the United States government is no longer a participant in this treaty. So American open skies is closed sky, not open for us, because they withdraw from it. Second, if Russia also just denounce the Open Skies Treaty, nobody from NATO member states can fly over Russian territory.
Okay,
and vice versa. Russia will not be able to fly over the territory of NATO member states who are members, who are just parties to this treaty.
Okay, when does this come into effect for Russia?
In May, it is hardly, because we are sitting, today is May 13, so it's not enough time. I think that in June, our both chambers of parliament, the House of Representatives, Duma, State Duma, it's American equivalent, House of Representatives or State Duma, and the Russian Senate, Совет Федерации, Federation Council, will agree that Russia should denounce its commitments to the Open Skies Treaty, and these resolutions or advice and consent will go directly to the president. And the president issues a specific decree that from such and such date, Russia doesn't have any commitments related to the Open Skies Treaty. And for us, it will be completely closed. Nobody will monitor us from the sky. The same to us. We will not be able to monitor as the territory using observation aircraft of other countries who might still subscribe to the OSST. But no, it is not necessary for NATO countries to send the observation aircraft to each other territory because they are allies. They are allies. There are some countries who are not allies of NATO alliance, like Ukraine, a member of the OST, and Georgia, for example. But I don't know. Is it relevant for transatlantic alliance to make overflights over Georgia, former Soviet Republic, I mean Georgia, Tbilisi, and Ukraine? I don't know. See, the crux of the matter in this treaty from the western part was that they have openly, juridically, clearly monitor the developments on Earth, on the ground, by using this observation aircraft, specifically designed, and have specific inspection teams, and it was a very good confidence building measure. But look, nowadays, when we trusted each other, when we have a normal relationship at the beginning of 90s, right? After disintegration of the Soviet Union. But currently there are no normal relationship between us. So no trust, suspicion, and sometimes hatred. So why we can't permit each other to fly illegally over respective territories? That's why the United States of America decided to quit first. It says that this treaty is very bad for the American national interests because Russian aircraft can go and fly over American territory, except some cases we have mentioned. That nowadays, no single Russian observation aircraft is permitted to go into the airspace of the United States of America.
Wow. So what that means is if Russia flies one of these planes over the United States will shoot it down and vice versa.
Yes, but no, without permission of the US government,
right?
No Russian, even unarmed, but plane can go. Only civilian airplanes can fly to the United States and go to JFK, etc. I don't know about Los Angeles. I haven't heard, but so civilian aircraft, they are permitted. It's a normal procedure. Nobody canceled it.
Right.
But Open Skies Treaty is the treaty used for military purposes. It's open intelligence. It's open reconnaissance flights.
So
permitted, sanctioned.
Yeah, I want to know, why did the United States think they needed to pull out of this treaty? Does it mean that they don't care? They don't need to know what Russians are doing, or they have other
No,
ways of knowing?
well, they think that they can find proper information by using different sources, not like Open Skies Treaty, but from other sources. That's why they decided not to stay. And for us, it was not a kind of unexpected move, because Mr. Donald Trump has already withdrawn from Iranian nuclear deal, from Arms Trade Treaty, from the INF Treaty. So they do not want to stay in the arms control regime anymore. And gradually they decided to stay out from this process that have been constructed, created through many efforts of many states and many politicians and many statesmen. It's a very difficult issues, but nevertheless, it's up to them to decide. But we cannot stay in this treaty while the United States is out. Yes, if for example, the United States would not have extended the New START by the next 5 years, we would not extend it at all. So it's not like tete-a-tete. It's a logical response, because like tango, you can dance together, or waltz, but twist can be danced unilaterally, alone. But waltz and tango only together.
Yeah. So how significant is this, Vladimir? Because the United States over the last few years have pulled out of all of the arms control treaties that had been established dating back to when? Ronald Reagan and before that. Now, I mean, the New START, yeah, America said we're going to continue it, but they don't even want to talk about it. So really, in effect, there are no treaties whatsoever in force between the United States of America and the Russian Federation. Is that correct?
Yes, unfortunately, the whole system of arms control crumbles gradually by specific stages, and they are not replaced by other treaties like ABM Treaty. It was not the decision made by President Donald Trump. It happened in the year 2002. INF, dead, not replaced. Conventional Forces in Europe Treaty, dead, does not work, not replaced by any other arrangement. So, but it's not our fault. We were not the first who just destroyed these treaties.
Yeah.
But
we've discussed this several times, that it's been the United States of America that has withdrawn unilaterally, without the consent of the Russian Federation. So, Vladimir, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, because we've been talking about treaties for several months now and what the implications of that are. And right now there's no limitations on anything that America will do or that Russian Federation will do in terms of developing weapons, offensive and defensive. No restrictions. There's no oversight. There's no inspections. There's nothing anymore, correct?
Right.
Okay, so you and I have both talked about the difficult and very dangerous situation that this has created. Now, I'd like to ask you if you would care to comment on some of the very dramatic and I think historic events that have happened in the last 2 weeks. The first of those, Vladimir, was President Putin giving a very definite warning, drawing a red line in the sand in terms of Kiev, the Ukraine, and the United States of America attacking the Donbass. President Putin
and Crimea as well.
And Crimea as well. And President Putin said, "Niet,
No.
don't do this." And what happened was Secretary of State Anthony Blinkin went to Kiev and he told, and this is public information, he told President Zelensky, "We will support you, but we will not join in the fight with you. In other words, we will not sacrifice American lives to help you." Do you have any comments about that, Vladimir? What does that mean in terms of Russian-American relationship, or relations, I should say, not relationship? What does that mean?
Well, it's a very bad sign, extra bad sign from the US government, and especially from the US State Department, and especially from Mr. Anthony Blinken, who just declared this kind of moral help and moral assistance to the Kiev ultra-nationalist regime, especially when the current president of Ukraine, Mr. Volodymyr Zelensky, openly threatens to conquer Crimea and to conquer Donbass. And by the way, we have been criticized very heavily that we just conducted exercises very close to the territory of Ukraine. But nobody who is criticizing us for that never revealed the fact that it was the Ukrainian regular armed forces who started movement of huge heavy military equipment in the direction of Donbass, very close to the border, de facto border separating Donbass area from the rest of Ukraine, from February this year. But we conducted exercises only in May, only in April. By the 1st of May, they have been completely stopped, and all contingents returned to their permanent bases. So the United States as well as Kiev, they both create very dangerous situation in Europe. It will undermine European security, not only the relationship between Kiev and Moscow or between Washington and Moscow, but if, for example, God forbids, the confrontation suddenly will erupt in this area between Ukraine and the Russian Federation, there will be very dangerous situation for the entire European continent and for adjacent areas and adjacent republics and states. And waterways in the Black Sea will suffer, land routes, railroads, civilian traffic will suffer, etc., etc. Normal trade turnover will be blocked, and commercial ties will be disrupted. So that would be a very dangerous situation and a prerequisite for the Third World War.
Okay, so that threat, that immediate threat of the Third World War has been somewhat diminished with Anthony Blinken going to Kiev and telling Zelensky and the parliament there that America will not join in the fight. Was this a matter of America and Blinken blinking? Did they blink?
Yeah.
Did they
Yeah.
lose face? Did they have to tuck tail and now diplomatically withdraw?
Yes. No, I think it is reality behind Mr. Anthony Blinken's words. America does not want to participate in military confrontation potential confrontation between Kiev and Moscow, between Ukraine and the Russian Federation, because there will be huge losses from each side. But Russia's military might is much higher and much more formidable rather than that of Ukrainian. We have nuclear capabilities. We have naval forces. We have aviation, very strong military aviation, and heavy strategic bombers, etc., with air-launched missiles, with naval missiles, etc. So it would be the end of Ukraine if Ukraine would somehow or somewhere in the future tries to regain Crimea and Donbass. They have to remember very clearly that Donbass never belonged to Ukraine. It was purely Russian territory from 1783, when we conquered this land from Ottoman Empire, and Crimea became part and parcel of the Russian Empire. Khrushchev never gave this Crimean peninsula to Ukraine legally. He gave it, but illegally, not supported by the entire Supreme Sovietos, former Soviet parliament at that time, in a violation of the Soviet constitution. And that's why we simply get it back, this peninsula, Crimean Republic, with the full advice of the Crimean population. More than 90% participated in the referendum and voted for reunification with the Russian Federation. And it was very peaceful, by the way, regaining or coming back into the umbrella of the Russian Federation. So as to Donbass, there are a lot of Russian-speaking people. They do not stay in the Ukrainian Republic anymore because they are afraid to stay in the Republic, who is undermining economic and social welfare of its own citizens, suppress Russian-speaking minorities, violate human rights, and use even tactical missiles, conventionally tipped, against civilian targets, schools, hospitals, etc., etc.
Well,
if just a second, Regis, if Kyiv were wise, Kyiv would make totally different steps forward to persuade the population of Donbass to come back again into the whole Ukrainian territory, offer better quality of life, not to suppress people, not to kill them, offering the chance to elect the local bodies of executive branches, etc. So raise pensions and salaries, etc. So it's a logical step forward, but they want to not to give carrot, but only want to extend sticks, huge and evil sticks to the population of Donbass, to Donetsk and Lugansk republics. In this case, nobody in Donbass will decide to go back again to the Kiev just community.
I think you make a very good point. I've been to the Donbass. I spent a month there 2 years ago. Still have friends there, and I get daily reports. I don't think the people in the Donbass, mostly Russian speakers, and 500,000 now have Russian citizenship, will ever agree to return to Kiev. But
No.
just to be clear, Vladimir, the Donbass was never part of the Russian Empire, correct? Like Crimea was.
No, you are not correct, Regis.
Please
Once
explain.
upon a time, yes, okay. Once upon a time, before the year 1921 or 22, I may be mistaken in terms of correct years, but it was the Soviet leader Vladimir Ilyich Lenin who gave up voluntarily, arbitrarily, Donbass to Ukraine, because previously Ukrainian Republic, soon after the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, was purely agrarian land, not industrial. And Vladimir Lenin decided to offer this area, Donbass, who is famous with this metallurgy and extraction of coal, etc., etc. So it's industrial area. He decided to give up this land to Kiev voluntarily and without any explanation, and just believing in brotherhood of Slavic nations. But it was not. It was a part of Russian Empire, like Crimea was from 1783.
Wow.
And Ukraine is a kind of a blanket made of several pieces of cloth. For example, Donbass was Russian, Crimea Russian, then a part of Western Ukraine was a part of Poland, like Lvov or Lviv in Kiev was a Polish city, and many Poles lived there. Some part of southern and western Ukraine belonged to Moldavia and Romania and Hungary. So it's a combination. Ukraine is a state composed of many states,
Wow.
of many parts of states, of other states, given by Lenin, by Stalin, by during the First World War, during the Second World War. So previously, historically, Ukraine was a very small plot of land around Kiev only, around Kiev, but no more. But gradually, through the nations, through the outcome of world wars, it expanded its territory.
Yeah. And we can see that after every major war, where boundaries have been redrawn and territories have been given up to the victors. And we've seen that after World War II very clearly. Vladimir, that's for me a very important history lesson. And I think it will be for many of the viewers. I'd like to continue with a couple more questions, because in the last 2 weeks, Russia's position, Russians' policies towards the United States of America have dramatically changed. I'll give a couple of examples and I'd like you to comment. The US has been expelling Russian diplomats for the last couple of years from the United States. They took over the Russian consulate in San Francisco, illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Russia finally has responded by expelling, I don't know, a dozen, 13, 14 US diplomats. They sent the American ambassador home for consultations.
We advised him to go to his capital for consultations.
Yeah, okay.
It was a very diplomatic suggestion, not expulsion, not declaring U.S. ambassador to Moscow as a person non grata. But we recalled our ambassador, Mr. Antonov, back to Moscow for consultations. And Mr. Ushakov, a presidential aide on Russia's foreign policy, advised the U.S. ambassador in Moscow to do the same way, to go to Washington to conduct consultations with his superiors.
So,
and yeah.
So was the American ambassador instructed to go back to the United States of America and convey a very definite message to?
Well, I don't know what he has already said to the president, to the national security advisor, to the State Department boss, or just the chief of Pentagon, because they have been already been briefed by him. But nevertheless, it's unheard of practice between our two great nations that we diminished, actually de facto, the level, the diplomatic level, the level of diplomatic presence. We reduced and sent our respective ambassadors to back home for consultations. But these consultations are too long, and nobody here, at least in Moscow, nobody here in Moscow does not know when these consultations are over. It has not been announced yet. When? It's not good. It's not good.
Well,
it's our relationship today between the US and the Russian Federation are in a deep-seated canyon. If you have in the United States the deepest canyon,
the Grand Canyon,
the Great Canyon, so they are in Great Canyon nowadays.
So to make matters worse, Vladimir, the Russian Federation has said it will not allow Russian citizens to work in supportive roles in the U.S. embassy and consulates. Now, that's a severe blow. Twofold. One, because the United States has depended heavily on the support of Russian support people. And number two, these Russians who counted on these jobs to support their families now are out of work. So that's very serious. I mentioned at the beginning, Russia is ready to release a list of unfriendly nations.
Yeah.
Now, I have to think that the United States of America is going to be at the top of that list. Vladimir, what does all of this mean?
Well, first of all, to this procedure, not letting Russian nationals to work at the American embassy here in Moscow. For the American government, naturally, it is easier to hire local personnel, because in this case, the US government or the State Department does not need to send US citizens to Moscow and to do administrative and less political work, technical assistance work, because each person who might be sent from the US to Russia to work at the US embassy here should be given huge money to rent a flat. There should be American school expanded, because many persons have kids, have school children. They have to continue their studies. There is an American and British school for the children of respective diplomats and other diplomatic community, especially English-speaking diplomats are using this kind of facility. Just imagine if several hundred persons are being sent to Moscow to do, technical or administrative work or job. A lot of flats are needed to be rented. Cars are needed. So salaries are needed because they are working abroad. It's a salary plus bonuses for working abroad, etc., etc. Medical facilities have to be arranged as well. Headache, toothache, normal human setbacks are inevitable. We are human beings, very fragile creatures. But Russian local, persons hired by the U.S. embassy is very helpful for the U.S. government. But please do not lament on the Russians who will not work any longer inside the American embassy. They will be given respective jobs inside the Russian Federation. They won't be like street beggars. Desperately needed money for their welfare. So they will be hired, recruited. It's not a problem. No, don't worry, Regis. We have plenty of work to do because we have huge land, #1 territory in the world. We have a lot of hands and brains of many people to work, because there are areas in our country when one person is living for several thousand kilometers. It's lands, these areas are not inhabited by many of Russians. So we need, that's why we are very grateful for gastarbeiters, persons from former Soviet republics coming to the Russian Federation. For example, in my multi-story building I'm sitting in now in Moscow, we have 2 janitors from Uzbekistan. They are very good. They work much better than previously Russian janitors or street sweepers. Am I right with this term? Do you understand?
Yes.
A janitor or just, cleaner, street cleaner. Yes, just taking away garbage and just yes, cleaning streets, etc., etc.
We would say janitors for a building, but public works people cleaning the streets, janitors, taking away
for public works.
Yeah,
outside the house in the vicinity area. So 2 of them. So everything is so clean, day in, day out. In the winter time, in the summertime, no dust, no garbage, everything clean. This waste material are being loaded, and the trucks carry them away to special destruction facilities, etc. So we're very happy, and we'll find. Well, as to your last point concerning
the unfriendly list.
Unfriendly list, right, unfriendly list. It is being prepared very carefully, very thoroughly, around a dozen of nations, I think, could be included into this list. It's called list of unfriendly countries. The United States will be in this list for many wrongdoings in terms of us, like expulsion of diplomats unjustifiably, for imposing economic, financial, and other sanctions against us, against enterprises, against individuals, for attacking the build-up of the construction of the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline across the Baltic Sea seabed. So and stealing property. I use a specific word, stealing property. It's a kind of robbery, because diplomatic premises are protected by the Vienna Convention on diplomatic relationship, diplomatic and consular relationship, and nobody can steal, attack, on expel the personnel, and try to find some documents, etc., etc. So it's an unheard practice in the diplomatic practice. So what will be the rest? I think all three Baltic republics, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, for giving a military accession rights to NATO countries on their territory, for helping separatism in Russia. Ukraine definitely will be. For harsh statements made by the president of Ukraine concerning regaining of Crimea and Donbass. Then Moldavia probably, because it still dreaming of regaining Transnistria Republic with a lot of Russians citizens living there. Georgia probably, Georgia as well, former Soviet republics, not the state of the United States of America, but former Russian Soviet Republic, and I don't know who else. So the list is will be carefully crafted. It will not be permanent. It will be modified, amended. If, for example, some states X or Z or Y will just continue anti-Russian propaganda, anti-Russian campaign, I mean, saber rattling against us, etc., using national territory of these states to expand military propagation, military preparations versus the Russian Federation, etc., etc. Expelling our diplomats. The Czech Republic, Romania, Bulgaria will be also mentioned, I think, and it's a fair play. Why we should turn blind eye and pretend that we do not see anything? Everything is so fine, so beautiful. Nobody attacking it, nobody is insulting us, dreaming about us in a friendly way. No, nothing. We are sick and tired of anti-Russian propaganda, anti-Russian activity. In many, many cases, unjustifiable completely, unilaterally. But some politicians and leaders in the West believe that after this kind of thing, there are no carrots, but a lot of sticks against us, and think that Russia will obey. Oh, we are so afraid. Don't harm us. We will do whatever you wish. Please do not touch us. Do not threaten us. We are your friends. No, we are sick and tired of this kind of wrongdoing and unfriendly adversarial behavior against the Russian Federation.
Yeah.
Regis?
Yeah, well, it's what I mentioned a while ago. This is unprecedented. I think the West in America has thought that Russia was weak because it would never respond in kind for so many years. But now Russia, President Putin, Sergei Lavrov, and others have emphatically called the United States and NATO out
Mhm,
on their behavior. And I think it's
mhm,
a game changer. I think it is a very dramatic game changer. And the second thing, and maybe this is for another time, Russia and China, for for all practical purposes, if not diplomatically and legally, are allies. And
mhm,
neither one, both under threat now, military threat from the United States, diplomatic
mhm,
and economic, both, neither will bow down. And together, they know that they are stronger militarily and economically and diplomatically than the United States of America and its allies in the West. I think, Vladimir, to end on this note, I don't think it's a very hopeful situation. I think it's even more dangerous than what you and I have been talking about, because now
mhm,
Russia has said, "Niet, no more."
mhm, mhm.
Well, I want to thank you for, my gosh, another very insightful and honest comments about how you and how the Russian Federation has been viewing all of these events and activities that have been very threatening to the Russian Federation.
Mhm,
Vladimir, we'll see you again very soon. Thank you so much.
mhm. Regis, thank you very much indeed for you as well. Your questions and your comments were absolutely terrific and fantastic. And I always enjoy talking with you, my friend. Well, take care. Goodbye. До свидания. Thank you very much.
До свидания, Vladimir.